Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be covering a massive system named Winter Storm Miles, but isn't just a wintry threat, but rather a wintry, rainy, windy, and severe threat. But this has been named Winter Storm Miles, but all of the above will be covered in this video, and it is broken up into 5 parts: overview, winter weather, severe weather, wet weather, and my predictions and opinions. So let's start off with our overview here with the Weather Channel page, and at a glance we have a storm entering the west early week that will track across the rest of the U.S. in the week ahead. The storm will produce snow, ice, and strong winds to the north of its track from the Rockies to the plains and Midwest. The storm's snowfall forecast is still somewhat uncertain, but we are starting to see more guidance pinning it one way than another. So this storm has been named Winter Storm Miles by the Weather Channel. So Miles is spreading through the west right now, but from there it will track across the Central Plains into the Mississippi and Great Lakes regions. Now this is the overall setup of the storm, but we'll move on to that when we look at the NAM. Now in terms of snowfall, Tuesday night we'll just see this start to move down from the northern Rockies into the southern Rockies. But Wednesday, and mostly Wednesday night, we will start to see the storm take shape, as we will see the Gulf moisture start to get drawn into this system, as well as that Gulf moisture moving into cold air, and we start to see our wintry weather in terms of ice, sleet, and snow. Now, Thursday and Thursday night is really the main event here, where we will see most of our heavy snowfall in areas such as Kansas City and Chicago. Now, in terms of winds, we could see winds either just above or below the blizzard requirement of 30 miles an hour. Now, below the blizzard requirement is going to be the sustained winds, so we're most likely not going to see blizzard or blizzard warnings put up for this storm, since those projected winds will be just below. But the gusts will be blizzard force, 35 to 40 across areas such as Kansas City and Wichita, 40 to 50 in Oklahoma City, as well as 30 to 35 in Chicago. Now, even on the southern side of the system, we could see some strong gusts as well, 35 to 40 in Nashville, 30 to 35 in Little Rock as well. Now, Friday, this storm will move into the eastern seaboard, mostly rain expected, but some snow, sleet, freezing rain could be. Very, very slight chance there, but could be in the very northern regions, such as those bordering Canada. Now, in terms of snow and rain, this is the Weather Channel's forecast, where we could see a large swath of 5 to 8. Now, recent model guidance has been showing even more than that, so we will get to that in a second, but could also see 2 inches of rainfall from this system as well. So that is also something that we have to watch. In terms of current watches, warnings, and advisories, we have winter weather advisories in effect for areas of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. We also have winter storm watches in eastern Missouri and west central Illinois. We have some flood watches in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York. Now, there aren't any severe alerts yet, but I do expect severe weather alerts to be posted across the southern U.S., as there is a chance for not only severe thunderstorms, but also tornadoes. Now, let's move on to our general overview of this storm system with the NAM 3-kilometer model, where we will see our current low pressure here, 996 millibars, start to move into the central U.S., with some snowfall here in Wyoming and South Dakota that will start to shift southward into Nebraska, where we could see even 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. But we start to see, because of another system moving across Canada, some Gulf moisture starting to get brought up here into the central U.S., and this is where we could see some rain, snow, freezing rain, sleet start to make its way into the Midwest and the central U.S. before this storm system really starts to draw up Gulf moisture, which is during the day, Wednesday night into Thursday, where we start to see this storm really progress, and we start to see it develop a lot more with Moderate to heavy rainfall out on the eastern side. We start to see some thunderstorms start to develop on the southern side, as well as heavier freezing rain, sleet, and snow on the northern side. And this really takes shape mostly on Thursday, especially Thursday morning, where we could see very heavy snowfall potentially in areas such as Kansas City, which is looking like to be the epicenter of this snow event. But we also will be seeing severe weather across Arkansas, Louisiana, even into Mississippi and Alabama throughout the day, and flooding rains in areas such as the Ohio River Valley, including Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, maybe even Pennsylvania, getting very heavy rains. And these areas were just hit with major snow totals from Winter Storm Landon, so that snowfall will be melting plus any additional rainfall on top of that. So as the storm continues to move through the central U.S., we see that heavy snow, sleet, freezing rain here starting to move into Chicago, Detroit, Gary, Indiana, but staying north of areas such as St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, Cincinnati, areas that did see snow or at least some sort of freezing precipitation, except for Cincinnati, out of Winter Storm Landon. Now, we also have severe weather on that southern side, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, maybe even Tennessee, part of that throughout the day, late Thursday, before this storm starts to pick up the pace and move into the eastern U.S., where we pick it up with the NAM 12-kilometer model. As the storm starts to move out, we see some flooding rains in parts of the major I-95 corridor, area that just got some snowfall, so we got snow melt on top of excess rainfall as well. But in terms of the Northeast, maybe some snow, sleet, freezing rain in areas of very northern Maine and interior New York, but really no major wintry weather in the Northeast, mostly that wet weather plus snow melt from any of the snow that is currently on the ground, before this storm eventually moves off the coast. So that is the setup for this storm. Let's move on here to our wintry weather and winds. So this is the NAM 3 kilometers rendition of snowfall totals, and very of note snowfall totals from this, even though this is a very thin strip of snowfall across the central U.S., we could see very high snowfall totals. So in areas such as Kansas City, you could see a foot to 2 feet. Areas just north and east of the Kansas City metro could see up in that 20-inch range. So don't count those snow totals out of the equation for this storm. We could also see areas like Chicago get 10 inches of snow, and areas like Detroit get 0 to 3, even though you'll mostly be rain. That is because as this system starts to work its way north, we could see some snow on the very northern edge of it, but we could also see some snow on the very northern edge as it's moving away. Now, major centers that aren't going to be getting snow: St. Louis, really not going to get any snow. Indianapolis, really not going to get any snow. Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Areas that we typically do see get some snowfall just aren't with this storm. We're also not going to see Milwaukee get any snow from this. So the few-hour drive from Milwaukee to Chicago will bring you from a winter wonderland to really not much. Areas such as Milwaukee could see more freezing rain than they do snow, which for being further north along this system is very strange, but it is how things may happen with this storm system. The Quad Cities could also see some very good snowfall totals, especially areas south of, Cedar Rapids, but we could see some areas such as Peoria down there get some very heavy snowfall totals, 11 inches, with the Quad Cities getting in that 3 to 6 inch range potentially. Now, in terms of freezing rain will be most prevalent further along into the storm. So we could see some very hefty snow totals and ice totals in areas around Jefferson City in Missouri, maybe even up to a half an inch of ice. But we also have areas such as Indianapolis, maybe getting a glaze, Areas such as Cleveland could be seeing a half an inch of ice. Detroit could be seeing up to a tenth of an inch of ice. Buffalo could be seeing up to a glaze to a tenth of an inch of ice as well. So the areas that could be seeing snowfall or just on the edge of that snowfall will be seeing significant freezing rain. And like I said before, Milwaukee could be seeing, maybe even up to 0.05 of an inch to a tenth of an inch of ice, depending on how things set up with banding as well. So let's move on here to winds. And winds could be a major factor with this storm, especially areas right around here. So we do have some winds out in front of this storm system, which is why right now on the National Weather Service page we have a lot of red flag warnings in effect, since these areas have been primarily dry, but now we're starting to see some windiness which could cause some fire spread. But as this storm system moves through and starts to strengthen, we could see sustained winds in those pinks, which is 20 to 25 knots, which is that 20 to 30 mile per hour range sustained. And as this storm continues to move into the East Coast, we could see some elevated winds there as well, just coming off the Atlantic. So areas such as Philadelphia, New York, Boston could be seeing, 20 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds as well coming off of the Atlantic. This is just that type of system that lines up perfectly where we could see some areas such as Long Island, southern Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts get some coastal flooding because the winds are in that perfect direction. So, with that brief discussion on the NAM 3 kilometers renditions of winter weather and winds, let's go on to our severe weather section of this video. So there's also a major severe threat, our first major severe threat of the year with this storm as well, with a slight risk of severe weather in Oklahoma and Texas from 12 a.m. Wednesday to 12 a.m. Thursday, covering 67,066 square miles and a population of 9.5 million people, including Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Arlington. There's also a marginal risk in Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma, including 86,602 square miles of land and 5 million people. This includes Little Rock, Arkansas, Springfield, Missouri, Abilene, Texas, Tyler, Texas, and Fort Smith, Arkansas. Now, in terms of tornadoes, we do have a 5% chance covering 34,468 square miles and a population of 2.4 million people, including Plano, Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas, Denton, Texas, Louisville, Texas, and Lawton, Oklahoma. We have a 2% risk in 45,232 square miles and a population of 7 million people, including Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Garland, and Irving, Texas. And that is shown on screen now. In terms of our Day 3 outlook, which is the more severe of the 2 days, we don't have a tornado outlook yet. That will be updated soon, but we do have a categorical outlook, which shows a slight risk across Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and a little sliver of Texas, covering 162,442 square miles and a population of 10.4 million people, including Memphis, Birmingham, Shreveport, Little Rock, and Jackson. We also have a marginal risk from areas of West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and if I said Missouri, I'll say it twice, Missouri. This covers 245,626 square miles and a population of 36.1 million people, including Charlotte, Nashville, Atlanta, Raleigh, and Louisville, major population centers in that marginal risk. Now, the NAM is showing a lot of energy for this storm system, the first major energy that we're seeing for thunderstorms. As this system rolls into the central U.S., we do start to see our Cape, which is our energy for thunderstorm development, start to rise here in Oklahoma and Texas, and we do get to a point where we could see areas of 1,000 joules per kilogram of Cape, maybe even just above 1126 there. And that moves into the lower Mississippi River Valley, where we could see throughout the day on Thursday some very strong cape here, maybe even up to 700, 800 joules per kilogram across a wide area, especially here in Mississippi and Alabama. Now, we also have, this is a composite model here. This is our significant tornado parameter, which basically, if you don't know, has many different composite models, such as energy helicity, bulk shear, cape, all mixed into one. So this is basically the chance that we have of getting tornadoes. And the significant tornado parameter does actually have a lot of, so this is basically the higher the amount here, the better chance you have. So we could see potentially 1.5. This is basically your Torcon on the Weather Channel. So 0.5 to 1, maybe even 1.5 on our significant tornado parameter. Maybe even in parts of Mississippi up to 2. So this is our first major tornado threat of the year. So that's just a brief overview, especially with that second part. I will make a second video on that, so stay tuned here, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss that video. But let's move on to the wet side of this storm. So we also have a potential flash flood threat with this storm as well. And we could see here on the Weather Prediction Center page from 7 a.m. Eastern Wednesday to 7 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, we have a marginal risk, at least 5% chance of exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles of a point in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. And on day 3, which is 7 a.m. Thursday to 7 a.m. Friday, we could see that slight risk pop up, which is at least 15% chance of exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles of a point in parts of Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And then that marginal risk, at least 5% chance of exceeding flash flood guidance in Vermont, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Arkansas, and Mississippi. In terms of our rainfall, we are going to be seeing most of the heavy rainfall in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, where you could see 3 inches of rain possible. We could also see, because of some bands moving on shore in parts of New York, up to 4 inches of precipitation, but that does count in some snowfall as well, some lake effects snowfall. But we could also see a widespread 1/2 inch plus, which is that blue, pink, and that maroon color. That's all 1/2 inch plus in areas from Texas up to Maine. So that's just a brief overview of the wet side of the system. Let's move on to my opinions and my thoughts. So here is my map for this storm. And let's go through bit by bit, starting off with snow. In this light blue color here, we have 0 to 3 inches of snow. In this dark blue here, this kind of medium azure blue, this is 3 to 6 inches of snow. In this pink here, this is 6 to 12 inches of snow. And in this purple, this is where you could see a foot of snow plus. In terms of icing, anywhere within this red line here could see likely icing. And then you have the low pressure track, which is also red, but that's just there for reference. In terms of rainfall, I didn't go with my typical line signature. I went with the maximum rainfall that a state could see anywhere in the state. So anywhere in this light green is less than 1/2 inch. Anywhere in this dark green is 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then anywhere in this yellow is 1 inch plus. So many states will be seeing 1 inch of rain or more, at least at one spot in their state. Now, in terms of snow as well, I did put in mountain snowfall for Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Some areas in the upper elevations could see some snowfall there, mostly in the higher elevations and in some spots of the very, very high elevations. But I just put that in there just for reference. But in terms of my bullseye, the area that could see the highest amount of snowfall, I'm going with the Kansas City area. And in terms of the area with the highest amount of ice, Cleveland. Area with the highest amount of rain, I am putting in parts of central to southern Indiana, Illinois, including Indianapolis. Now, still watching that severe threat. I will have another video on that, so stay tuned here. Subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss that video. But in terms of the broader view of this system, this is going to be a very hectic system. And I would not be surprised if many states do declare a state of emergencies for this storm, since it is going to be very powerful, as well as having multiple threats. Just the fact that this video is probably getting close to 30 minutes. I haven't checked the actual length yet, because obviously I haven't edited this yet. But this is getting close to 30 minutes, which just shows you how much there is to cover about this system. I don't like to make 30-minute videos because I think that they don't hold your people's attention, but just because of the mass amount of stuff to cover in this system, this is why this is probably going to be the most significant winter storm we've had all year. No, not Kenny. No, not Garrett. No, not Landon. This system, Winter Storm Miles. No, this storm's not going to be dumping 30 inches of snow in some spots. No, this storm is not going to be dumping a third of an inch of ice on major metropolitan areas such as Memphis. No, this storm is not going to be dumping a foot of snow on the I-95 corridor as a whole. But this storm has so many different, maybe not as major in all of them, but all of them combined creates a major mess greater than any storm that we've had so far this year. So, if you watch this video in full, hats off to you. I don't think I would be able to do it, but thank you a lot. And if you skip through parts of this video and watch the ones that pertain to you, that's good too. This video is purely for your best interests. I'm not one of those people that's like, view duration and all that stuff, even though that is nice. As long as you got good purpose out of this video, that is great. The best thing to do with these types of systems is prepare for what type of risks you could be seeing and to hope for the best so you don't have to experience the worst. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be great. A subscribe would be amazing. But if you got value out of this video, that's even better. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.